Now, let's move on to our next breakout, which is Breakout 8, which will be chaired by Professor Dr. Ranjit Dayamatne from Bahrain. Professor, hello.
Hi, how are you?
Fine, thank you. How about you?
Good to see you again.
Hi, Ranjit.
How are you doing?
Nice to see you again.
Sure. It's great.
Are you in Bahrain or are you in Australia now?
I'm now in Australia, actually.
Oh, okay. Which part?
Yeah, I'm in Melbourne.
Melbourne, right. How's the weather?
Oh, it's pretty cold, but
Yeah.
not that bad.
So what's the time now in Melbourne?
It's about 5 o'clock in the afternoon.
5 in the afternoon. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, you're
a couple of
ahead,
towns.
2 hours.
Yeah,
Right.
ahead, actually.
Okay.
Yes.
Over to you, Ranjit.
Thank you very much. We're going to start the second session of the AicE-Bs2022 in Kota Kinabalu, Malaysia. And I am delighted to be chairing this second session. And we have about 8 papers to be presented this afternoon, starting now. And as you know, the rules are that each presenter has 10 minutes to present, and we have 5 minutes of discussion afterwards. Let's start off with the first presenter, who is Dr. Rafida Sahar, who is going to talk to us about the academic cultures of postgraduate supervision. This is a very interesting topic. We all have been involved in postgraduate supervision. I don't know if anyone has done research, but seems to be a very interesting thing to look at. She's going to talk about what influences supervisors in their practices. Over to you, Rafida.
Thank you, Prof. Ranjit. I would like to share my screen. So, Assalamualaikum and a very good day. I wish to everybody. So I'm very honored to be here to share findings of our study. So our study focuses on academic cultures in postgraduate education in Malaysia. So we are especially curious about what happens during postgraduate supervision. So we are specifically interested in what influences or informs supervisors in their practice. So the following elements stimulate our curiosity. So basically, in the literature on higher education, supervision is described as a complicated undertaking whose outcome depends on a number of factors, including level of intensity, academic excellence, and interpersonal relationship between supervisors and students. However, despite being challenging, it is still considered essential, because supervision can help enhance students' learning experience and prevent low complication rates, high attrition rates, increased student satisfaction, and other problems. So although there is a growing corpus of literature on supervision in Malaysian higher education context, it remains a complex and difficult phenomenon with limited empirical research on the behaviors involved. So, and also the globalization, international movements in the recent decades have transformed the landscape of Malaysian higher education, giving rise to the changing student demographic with diversified student needs. So this in turn adds to the growing complexity of supervision. Thus, our research aims to examine the complexity of supervision practice, specifically the approaches involved and the cultural context that shape these approaches from the perspective of supervisors. So we hope that this may help inform supervisors like myself, a novice supervisor, to determine the different cultural contexts that may aid or hinder the progress in supervision. So hopefully the study can also inform the university of the appropriate mechanism to prepare and support the supervisors so that they can optimize learning experiences of their students. So in literature review, studies have discussed the subject of academic identity as central to supervision. So the identity of a supervisor includes both conventional and institutional roles, including teaching, research, administration, among others. Moreover, the transformation of higher education to a business enterprise is contributing to a growing numbers of postgraduate students. And the global ranking pursuit has created a publish or perish reality for today's supervisors. So consequently, the supervisors are under pressure to take on multiple roles in a very challenging system, which in turn might affect how they conduct their practice. Some studies have also shown that unequal power relation, disciplinary practices, and institutional bureaucracy can complicate the relationship between supervisors and students. For example, the traditional master-apprentice supervisor relationship can embody unequal and overt power relationships that might contribute to the abuse of power, such as giving poor feedback or even academic harassment. And also postgraduate education comes with own sets of practice and values that might differ across disciplines. Often the discussions about encounters between students and supervisors from various backgrounds have focused on the differences that are often framed within large culture, such as ethnicity, nationality, or international differences. However, in our study, we believe that essentially this view of culture traits may be restricted in recognizing the complexity involved in the relationship between supervisor and students. Therefore, in this study, we draw on the non-essential small cultures as our theoretical lens to see culture as a dynamic, ongoing process whereby each group member makes sense of and operate meaningfully within those circumstances. So in this sense, supervision practice acts as a social milieu in which supervisor and students come together to achieve a predetermined goals. So when we talk about research methodology, so our study falls within qualitative research as we seek to explore the complexity of human interpretations of the social world and to gather as much detailed information as possible about individual experiences, thoughts, and values, as well as the context in which their experiences are situated. We position our study within the narrative inquiry because it is suited to address issues of the complexity within the education context, as narrative enables educators to understand their own teaching and learning processes. To address ethics in the study, we distributed participant information sheet and consent form to all participants in our effort to be transparent about the nature of the research, and also we use pseudonyms to conceal identity and sensitive information of the participants. So when we talk about data generation, we use purposive sampling of 2 male and 1 female senior supervisor at a public university. So we use one-on-one narrative interviews by utilizing a set of questions designed to elicit participant experiences in the form of stories and to generate thicker and richer data. Our data analysis was carried out in 3 stages. First, we transcribed the interviews by focusing on the content of what was said rather than the structural analysis of the narrative. The transcription was then sent to the participants for members checking. Second, carrying technique to organize the events and actions that occurred within the narrative and establish how these story elements relate to one another, and also to represent the narrative data in a more coherent manner. Finally, we carry out holistic content analysis to identify a central theme for the whole narrative and explores how a specific segment of the narrative can shed light in the story as a whole. So the analysis was carried out in 5 stages. First, we engage with the text, and then we record global impression of the whole narrative, and then we identify themes, we quote each theme, and we establish connection between each theme and context. So we address trustworthiness by positioning our study with the appropriate research methodology, and we use narrative as our strategy of inquiry, and we use that as well, the same approach for our methods of data collection and analysis. We also include extracts or words from the participants by reporting our findings, so that each of the participants' own word will be an integral part of the analysis to provide support for our interpretation. In terms of reflexibility, we use research journal to exercise our thoughts and also to minimize our research bias when we are engaging with the data. So when we talk about findings, our finding reveals that supervisors do not exclusively use one single supervisory style, as there is a range of supervisory styles implemented throughout the supervision. So this can be illustrated by the transitional continuum model of supervision. So according to the model, so when supervisors move flexibly from one end of the continuum to the other, they acquired varied role styles and modality. For instance, at the end of one of the scale, linear supervision provides a more organized and directed styles of supervision, in which supervisors would assume the teaching and monitor student progress on a regular basis. So each of a student's development is defined and explained. So this is typically employed in the beginning of the supervisory process, where supervisors will initiate multiple meetings, ideally on one-on-one or face-to-face, with students who are new or unfamiliar with their research subject, discipline, or research methodology. Here, within this approach or this style, the supervisors are more hesitant to engage in non-personal topics because they are focused on developing the students' academic and research competence. Whereas at the opposite end of the spectrum is a holistic approach to supervision, in which the supervisor would incorporate more independent and collaborative ways to learn while supervising their students. So these can occur at the end when students demonstrate substantial growth, competence, or confidence in their research. So, and supervisors at this end of spectrum are more flexible in their modality selection as they communicate with their students on a needs basis via email or text messaging. And most exchanges are in the form of advice and suggestions rather than structured feedback. The supervisors also are more willing to discuss non-academic matters with their students. So for our second RO, our finding demonstrate that 3 significant cultural components that shapes the supervisors' behaviors and values in their practices. Okay, first would be students' pedagogical experiences that derive from their own educational background, their learning styles, or their education beliefs. So students who come from more traditional educational background would often struggle to adapt to a more student-centered, independent, and technology-infused higher education learning environment. The second component is that supervisors may have created and co-created values and norms in their practice, idea from their educational experiences, their engagement with previous students, or their interaction with the scholarly community. For example, the membership of their membership with a scholarly community, based on their fields. The third and final component is the extent to which the institution and disciplinary-based shared values and norms affect how supervisors approach their supervisory practice. For example, the implementations of internationalization and research-oriented agendas may compromise the quality of supervision, as supervisors are under pressure to take on multiple roles and also to take on more students under their wings. So our findings resonate with existing literature that depicts postgraduate supervision as complex and consists of different dimensions that range from teaching, research administration, to even pastoral care. However, rather than using one particular approach, either hands-on or hands-off, the supervisors instead flexibly adopt a range of styles depending on the student's need, progress, or predetermined learning goals. So it is not surprising to see supervisors to move flexibly between the various models, especially because the students would make drastic changes in their studies, or when the students experience demanding situation. This is when the lecturers, the supervisors would actually move flexibly from one end to the other end. So our finding also proposed that supervisors adopt and replicate appropriate approaches in their supervisory practices based on their interpretations of the shared activities and values. And these interpretations are influenced and informed by multiple contexts that derive from one, a student's educational background, second, their own educational background and professional affiliation, and also the wider institutional-based values. So previous literature has discussed that apart from the academic community of practice, the shadow figures and their relationship play an important role in supervisors' practice. And also studies have shown that students' lack of academic or research skills also play a factor. So finally, the wider institutional core values, for example, the higher education global movement, as well as the academic discipline in higher education, all have an impact on how supervisors interpret the underlying assumptions for their practice. So in conclusion, our study adds the body of knowledge in postgraduate education by delving into the cultures of supervision, which is one of the significant private and complex domains of higher education. So our key insight is that the approaches to supervision are not static. since supervisors and students change for a variety of reasons over the candidacy. So as they change, so do the power dynamics. Methodologically, our study offers the narrative inquiry as an effective strategy for highlighting the supervision qualities that are embedded within their knowledge, cultures, behaviors, experience, and beliefs, which will be difficult to portray in other methods. And also, narrative inquiry provides the supervisors a voice by allowing them to narrate their experiences and express their thoughts in their own words. So as part of the study's limitation, only 3 supervisors were selected and therefore not indicative of all supervisors from all backgrounds and disciplines of study. So we feel that larger research with a broader range of participants, various subjects, different programs will give more insights into Malaysian academic cultures and supervision. And finally, because qualitative narrative studies need a high level of sensitivity and trust between the researcher and participants, so the researcher reflexivity process must be addressed throughout. In order to suspend, minimize researchers' bias. However, such procedures necessitates extensive expertise and it takes time. So that's all from me. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much, Dr. Rafida, for that very exciting and interesting presentation, looking into the supervisory practices of the postgraduate students. Before I open the discussion to the floor, I have 2 questions actually. You admitted at the end, of course, that the research was conducted only among 3 supervisors, which is quite a small number. I mean, given the fact that you have discovered 3 different styles, I was wondering, how did you discover 3 styles, different styles between 3 of them, with only 1 of them using 1 style? Seems like a rather inadequate number. I was just curious why you confined yourself to number 3. Was it because the supervisors were not available, or what was the reason for confining this study to only 3 supervisors? This is a major issue.
Yeah, this was done pre-COVID, and also our this is actually a part of a larger study. So in our study, so we actually look at students. We look at also supervisors who are novice. So we have a group of lecturers, supervisors. So these 3 supervisors are, from our perspective, since they have supervised more than 10 years. And we want to use narrative inquiry. So we want to see whether this methodology can actually give us what we want. You know, so because with narrative, because I know triangulation is important, numbers of participants, you know, is important, but with qualitative and narrative, how do I say, the depth of the data is what we want. You know, so we found out that even with 1 sitting, so our interview session lasted from 60 minutes to 2 hours.
I see.
Yeah, because it comes in, because the data come in the form of stories.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you can just have 1 questions and they would tell the history together.
Yes, they will take time talking about it. Yeah, I just have another question. We all know that the success of a postgraduate students depends entirely on the relationship that exists between the supervisor and the student. What would you say as the most critical thing about this relationship? You talked about students coming to talk about personal issues and supervisors trying to avoid them and so on. So there are different ways in which this relationship exists. What would be the critical thing about this relationship that will contribute to the success of a student?
I think that, like, from our finding and also from my experience, since I've started to get involved in the supervision, I would say establish, how do I say it, a mutual understanding. You have to establish your expectation and goals in the beginning. Yeah, because you will get different students, you know, coming with different goals, different timeline, and then supervisors, as I said just now, are also with in a different timeline. You have different forces shaping your practice. So you need to sit down with them, and I think even in the first few meetings, you have to set certain goals, like, you know, what is your time frame? What are your limitations?
Expectations.
What is my limitation? Expectations, definitely. Yeah. Because if it's not fulfilled, it will not work.
Yeah, exactly. Both ways. Yes. Thank you very much, Doctor. I would open the floor for discussion if anyone has any questions. We have about 2-3 minutes, and I'm sure there are many supervisors in the audience who would probably be able to make a contribution to this very interesting research, which is a rare kind of thing that Rafaida has done. Any questions from the floor? As it is usually the case, the audience is generally shy to raise any questions, and particularly given the fact that you are dealing with a very complex issue here. So maybe, so thank you very much for that very insightful research, and hopefully you will contribute and continue to explore the more diverse characteristics of this relationship for the benefit of supervisors, the educational institutes, as well as the potential students in future. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I think we will now move on to our second presenter today, which is done by 4 persons: Norisa Aminuddin, Salamia Jamal, Devi Raza Kauser, and Riza Delia Parivista. I hope I read the names correctly. They are going to talk about exploring micro weddings concept, a synergy of values for VER tourism in Malaysia and Indonesia. It's an interesting idea of what they call micro weddings. Over to you.
Yes, thank you, Professor Ranjit. So I would like to share screen about this presentation. Good afternoon, Professor Ranjit. So good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Please, I think it is so nervous for a presentation about this journal. So I would like to introduce about ourselves. My name is Riza Delia from Akademi Pariwisata Patra Indonesia, and the others authors is Prof. Nurliza Aminuddin, Professor Salamia Jamal from Faculty of Hotel and Tourism Management, Universiti Teknologi MARA, and then Professor Devi Roza Kausar from Faculty of Tourism, Pancasila University, Indonesia. So the title about this paper is Exploring Micro Weddings Concept, a Synergy of Values for Visiting a Friend's Relative Tourism in Malaysia and Indonesia. Okay, so the COVID-19 pandemic has not only affected the international and domestic tourism, it also affects significant leisure activities such as like sport, leisure, and then pilgrim, maybe such as like Hajj in Mecca. And then if you know, the Tokyo Summer Olympic 2022 is postponed, and then the mass gathering of Muslim worldwide in Mecca for the Hajj pilgrim is cancellation or maybe postponed, or maybe a small attendance for the Hajj. So it is 100 degrees turn from normal behaviors. Wedding solemnization were conducted online to avoid any physical contact. So this study identifies a religious and leisure event that is popular and before the pandemic was justly celebrated, involving a few hundred and at times thousand attendees. So Saint and Armita 2019 said the celebration of marriage is not only regarded as one of the important stages in human life. And then from Jamaluddin 2018 said a separate event over announcement the publishing it is an obligatory to avoid troubles within the Muslim community. So now maybe wedding can from macro wedding and then until micro wedding to the small attendance, such as like from 50 until 100 attendance. So from Jepson et al. 2018 said attending festival and event has been shown to improve the quality of life through sociality and bonding. They are memorable leisure experience and then enhance social interaction and relationships, change our daily life drastically. So some events were cancelled and postponed. So yeah, Carrillo et al. 2020. So in the new normal situation, we use a go digital, so like a hybrid model of physical and online was introduced. So micro wedding replaced the large wedding of several hundred or thousand guests. So the methodology of this presentation about the qualitative investigation of the study centered on guest perspective regarding their experience in attending Muslim wedding, focusing on the COVID-19 wedding trend with respect to the value perception of the overall process. So data were collected through in-depth interviews with 20 informants who attend an even Malaysian or Indonesian Muslim wedding. So 60% population in Malaysia is Muslim, and Indonesia have a large population of Muslim, at least once during the pandemic. So the result, we have 4 themes. There are 4 themes about value of the micro wedding, such as functional value, social value, price value, and then sorry, emotional value. Okay, the first one about functional value. This can include how the guests felt about purpose, practicalities, and safety about that wedding. So, do you have read this screen? We have for respondent. They are from 75 years old. They said how the functional value of the wedding was more important than the number of guests. The wedding served its function that to inform people that a couple is married. The solemnization is the most critical aspect of a wedding. So the other one said the functional value of a wedding was retired using a different concept. He's not concerned about the religious part of the solemnization as he is about the practicality of a small wedding, which include its timing, venue allocation, and more importantly, and safety. And then the participant 25 years old said who understood the wedding event function was more appreciative of the thrills that came with a small wedding under normal circumstances, depending on the financial budget of the host. Each attendee given door gift, like a wedding gift, maybe door gift. So the last respondent said the most important aspect is the wedding should remain sacred, albeit organized with different technologies. So about this theme, the conclusion about this theme is the functional value of being solemnized and comparatively small number of guests to inform others about the marriage is more appreciated by the elderly than the young guests. Okay, the second time about the value social, that it feels more intimate. Many people or many respondents said it feels more intimate, but it feels like more memorable. So it feels nicer because you know the groom and the bride really value you to pick you out of the many people they know. So some information were at this point for being unable to meet friends and relatives as per the norm prior to the pandemic, when wedding implied meeting friends and relatives. Okay, so third theme is about price value. So the wedding host, the bride, groom, and their parents could enjoy a cost-saving event because as micro wedding involve a limited number of the guests. The amount spent on the entire event would be reduced dramatically. So it cannot to spend a lot of money, so you can cost saving money to use this micro reading. Then with it comes cost. The burden is on the host and not much on the guest. Most of the time, it signals the host social status. Nonetheless, he felt that going to weddings which are far and require accommodation at the hotel affect his covers. A distance location also implies a higher cost in terms of a full and automatic maintenance. So although he has an alternative to not going, he doesn't feel nice about not going. Hence, he felt a breathing and this case for a wedding during the pandemic, which means that the venue is domestic destination, which is within short distance from his house, like that. Okay, during outbreak restrictions, meals can be served on site or in takeaway box or hampers. But if micro wedding, at least maybe use the hampers and with the meals, 3 kind main course like that. But if a macro wedding, it is the guest can eat the buffet, and then the buffet have maybe 3 until 5 kind main course. So it means different about the buffet and the hampers style. Okay, the last term is about emotional value. The emotional aspect of immersion and fun with the hedonic aspect were integrated into existing measure of cognitive evaluation of the experience as suggested as by AMER 2020. Okay, so I felt the warmth of this at the event, an emotion that is difficult to explain. I could not imagine this if I was not invited. This is one statement from the respondent. Yeah, maybe many hosts feeling sad if they cannot to invited that friends, that relative to the wedding, because it is have intimate wedding. So the totally of the attendees just maybe around 50 until 100 attendees. So of course feeling sad about this who haven't been invited. I never thought that I would like small size wedding. No, I like it when most of the guests are my family members. There is sense of family solidarity. So attending a wedding in the pandemic can competence for the need to socialize in this difficult time. So about this question, the study found that functional, social, emotional, and price values were the dimension of value perception that were most frequently mentioned as the source of satisfaction experienced by the guests. So this perspective is derived from earlier research suggesting that participants attend events for escape, novelty, uniqueness, family interaction, and socialization purpose from Compton and McCabe on 1997, Nicholson and Pierce 2001. So this discussion, the current study found that older guests were most affected by the latest micro-reading trend in terms of shrinking social benefit. However, they were satisfied with the functional value. So this finding indicate the measuring guest experience must be moved beyond the evaluation of cognitive aspects such as functional and social value and include affective aspect, their emotional value. So how about the conclusion? The study explored the value perception of wedding guests based on their experience of attending a micro-wedding. in Malaysia and Indonesia, especially for value dimension of micro-wedding, they were identified as the source of overall value, functional, social, price, and emotional value. So this result could be help both researchers and wedding planners build a more effective intervention design, especially to tackle this 4-dimension. Future research could include a value perception of their important life event and select information of different ages to understand their behavior and perception. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Riza, for that very interesting presentation of the micro weddings. I have 2 questions really to start with. This idea of the micro wedding is new. And as you have rightly said, that it has come about as a result of the COVID-19 restrictions rather than any other social or cultural practices. Given the situation that the COVID-19 has subsided and the weddings can be organized in a more elaborate way like it used to be, do you think the micro weddings will continue?
Maybe just some people want to continue that micro wedding because maybe they want to save a cost. So because
you discovered four very valuable functional cost and other aspects which are recognized by the people and appreciated. But does that mean that the micro weddings will continue and the lavish weddings will disappear eventually?
Maybe not to continue the micro wedding, but some people will continue that micro wedding. Just that many people want to choose maybe a macro wedding or micro wedding. Just maybe a micro wedding less than 300 attendees, but macro wedding is more than 300 attendees.
How did you come to that conclusion? Was it part of your research that whether they will continue or not?
Yeah.
Did you ask them whether, I mean, how did you come to that conclusion that this will continue?
The conclusion?
Yeah, because you did not really, you did the research with the people who have already done the weddings, but you don't know what the people will eventually do. So I'm just curious how you would make that conclusion.
Oh yeah, this conclusion is for experience that attention about that guest attends the wedding.
Okay, right. So I have one other question. What is the most significant aspect of the micro wedding that people appreciated most? Price?
From the for value, maybe from
what was the most significant? Obviously you recognize 4 of them, but which one was the most significant that people appreciated?
From the price and then the emotional.
What do you mean by emotional?
Yeah, because many people want to invite her friends, her family, but it cannot be to invited.
Right. Okay. Thank you very much, Riza. Let me open the floor for any discussion and any issues. I'm sure there will be some questions from the audience, hopefully, given the fact that this is a very new concept and a new cultural practice. And I'm sure some of you would be curious about how this whole idea of micro weddings have manifested and will or will not continue to take place. If you are planning to get married, would you go for a micro wedding now that this new idea has come into being? Any questions from the audience? No. Yes, I think I can hear some sounds. Anyone has any curious questions to be raised from Riza? No, it looks like there are no questions from the audience. In this case, I think we will conclude this session. We are on time, just on time. And thank you very much, Lisa, for that very interesting research into the idea of micro weddings. And I hope that the lavish weddings, which seems to drain the couple and the families a lot of money and unnecessary expenses on lots of extravagances, would diminish, and the weddings will become simpler, as you said, would become more emotionally relevant and functionally meaningful, as this COVID-19 has taught us how to do it. Thank you very much. Now, thank you. I think we will now move on to our third presenter, which is a presentation by Rina Al-Mabina and a number of others. And it is a study, no, sorry, it's by Hasrina Hussain, Siadi Tool, Catherine, and Jas Layli. And they're looking at low income and mental health. Can urban parks be the solution for better health? This is a very interesting research about low income and mental health. Are you there?
Yes, hi.
Yes,
Hi,
yes.
hi, Prof. Okay.
Yes, please open your presentation, which is already there and we are visible. Please start off. We are at 11:10. Yeah, you have 10 minutes to go.
Okay, thank you, our respective chair, Prof. Ranjit, and good afternoon to all the participants. I'm representing my co-author, which is Prof. Hasrina, Prof. Catherine, and also Prof. Jas Layli. So today, I'm going to present on the low income and mental health. Can urban park be the solution for the better health? Okay, for the aim of these studies, this is to investigate whether the park elements influencing the park visit frequency of the low-income communities in an urban area. For the introductions, we know that Malaysia is one of the Asia countries that undergone a rapid development. So nevertheless, the Malaysia also experiencing the urban poverty, that the number has been affected based on the financials and a lot of things. So this has been increasing in a Malaysian context based on the Department of Statistics Malaysia. The poverty escalated from the 5.6% of the population in 2019 before the COVID occurs to 8.4% in 2020. And the cases of these poverty having increases is related with the COVID, the existence of the COVID. It caused the financial hitches based on the due to the loss of job and retrenchment, and also terminated by the employer. And it shows that the significant relationship between the poverty of the low income and the psychological distress. And this is because of the one of the 5 low-income residents with the live in the urban area have physically inactive. We know that green area has a lot of potential, a lot of benefits to human being and also to the nature. With the existence of the water feature, outdoor place area, all the scented plants like flowers in a park can increase the number of the visit to the park that can release the stress. In fact, the fresh air and also the physical activities can contribute some of the good feelings that can release all the stress based on the tranquility effects from that. The low-income people, usually they have barriers that make them less visit the park because of they having a lack of time, instead of they are spending their time to have a recreational, but they instead do some work to increase their income. And some of it, most of it are the safety concern and the park equipment. In fact, the fresh air and nature setting also that known have been a lot of beneficial in reducing and improving the health. In the others, research had been identified the suitable program, such in generating their income from the low incomes, that creates a lot of visitors from this group. Okay, for the methodology, based on these studies that are more on focusing on the low income community, thus the park selection need to be specific and the criteria of the selection. Thus, the identification of this Rimba Bukit Kerinci Park as a case study based on the travel distance from the park to the residential is only 3 kilometers from the low-income residential area. And also the size of it is suitable for the urban park itself. Okay. The selection of the participants are based on the low income that I'm focusing on the PPR, which is the project of people housing project from the Malaysia government, that they have this kind of scheme for the people with the low income. So that's why we are going to identify this kind of people to get some of the response. For the recruitment participants, the participants are going to be identified face-to-face at their houses, and then being distributed all the questionnaires that include the response to the park current condition and also their mental health level, which is we are going to use the PSS, perceived stress scale. On the findings, we figure out there are 64.8 respondents are from women. They are Malay, and they are in the range. They are in the range age of 20 until 29 years old. They are healthy, non-smoking, and their housing area less than 2 kilometers from the park, which is they are easily walking distance to the park. Okay, for the park usage, most of these respondents said there are 91.1% they agree that a park can relieve the stress, and most of them are visiting the park in the evening within the duration of 2 to 4 hours in 2 or 3 times in a week. Okay, for the low incomes resident stress level, we are using the PSS, perceived scale stress scale. There identify most of the participants, the respondents are having the moderate stress. And then for the evaluations, we have the 18 items that are derived from the literature review, where the highlighted point here is the less than 50% of the satisfied percentage, and the rest of it is the very satisfied percentage. They are concerning on the facilities access with the disturbance of wild dogs and monkey, and also water features. And last but not least, the most they feel disturbance to visit the park is feeling the safety at the park. Okay, for the discussion, even though there is no significant correlation between the self-reported stress level and evaluation of the park condition, however, we also ask the respondents if they are prescribed with the antidepressant. So the clinical diagnosis of the mental health issue have a stronger relationship with the evaluation of the park conditions compared to the respondent who is having the PSS score indicating their stress level. And from here, we can see the antidepressant status shows they are significantly associated with the evaluation of the safety. So means that someone who is taking the antidepressant pills or medication, they are more concerned on the safety of the park. So for the conclusions, as we all know from the aim that we are need to investigate the park elements that influencing the visit. So we identified as a conclusion, the respondents showed they are very satisfied with the 12 items that we are being asked them out of the 18 environmental conditions being studied, which is they are satisfied with the good wayfinding, the cleanness of the park, the well-maintained, the design of the tree itself, the car parks, the structure, shaded areas, seating, natures, trees, and the variety of the activities. On top of that, they also satisfied with the good natural lighting, this distance from the park to the residential area. In fact, to increase the number of the visit of this group, there are certain of the recommendations, such as the access to the toilet, which is the highlighted point when we ask them, that need to be identified. Even though there are our government do have the guidelines and the planning for developing the parks. However, when we come to the low income, they have the different preference for them to visit the park. So people are senses of the security, and also the involving the internal factor, which is the inside the park condition itself, and also the external factor, which is the action from the other visitors. So the involvement of the government itself and the community itself, it needs to be hand in hand to make sure that their parks are usable and can have more visitors and create more safety. So in the recommendation for the future studies, there's a need to compare. There's a rest of the parks in the Kuala Lumpur, because right now we are only studies only one park that represent the communities low income in the surrounded of the park, and also the increased number of the respondent itself to make it less biased, and the clinical diagnosis of the health status among the low income communities are needed, since we got the findings that the self-reported might be biased instead of the clinical diagnosis. So I think that's all for my presentations. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Azreen, for that interesting presentation about the relationship between urban parks and mental health. We know poverty is one of the most critical things about the low-income groups, and I was just curious. The mental health is a very complex phenomenon, and it arises from various sources. And the sources of this stress that you have examined are important in a way, isn't it? I mean, I was just curious whether the parks and the greens can really change stress that arises from poverty. Poverty is inherent and it's there, and if you don't have money to eat, and you suffer from the consequences of poverty. Could that sort of stress be influenced by the presence of parks and greenery, you think?
Okay.
Does that show evidence to that sort of possibility?
Yes, the possibility when someone who has a struggle financially, they have more stress compared to someone who has a stable life, a normal life, and then the involvement of themselves to the park, they at least can release some of the stress, because stress is going to contribute a lot of more health problem, which is non-communicable diseases. When you are stressed, you are going to spike out the the cortisol. The cortisol itself going to lead you to a lot of health problems. Instead, it's not only the mentally problems, it's also the physically. So that is the concern of what is most important. The park in Malaysia, we need to gather all those preference by the consumers who are going to use the park. Because what we have right now, the guidelines, the planning, it is what it is. But we didn't ask the who is going to use that park, their preference. So that thing is going to influence the frequency of the parks, and when the less of the visiting of the parks is going to contribute a lot of stress problems and the health problem in itself. That's it.
All right, my second question is, parks, usually urban parks, are generally located and frequented in the elite areas, in the, people with money and affluence and so on. So would the low income be able to access such areas easily? They are usually marginalized and located far away from these sort of lavish green urban parks. So is that realistic to expect the low income communities who are in marginalized communities of a city to be able to even get to the parks in the first place? It's not next to their settlements, isn't it? It's far away.
Yeah. So mostly, if we can see the scenario in Malaysia, what we have right now is we are thanks our government, because most of the parks in Malaysia didn't involve the fees. Okay, but then there is bias between the development in the elite area, what you said just now. The difference of the facilities, the difference of the safety, the distance of these park to the low-income residentials are very critical, and it is very needs to be looked on by all the planners or the professionals in the future developments. Because what we have right now, people are eager to visit the park which is nearby their neighborhood instead of travel. People with low income, they have no time, they need to travel. Exactly. They have to use the money.
They cannot access in the first place.
Yes, that's why I'm trying to answer your question. They cannot access to that place simply like without any barriers. So they have quite some of the barriers to access the parks.
Right, thank you very much. Let's see if the audience has any views and any questions from this particular issue, which is a critical issue in the cities almost always, with economic disparities dividing societies and marginalizing communities who are constantly at the receiving end of the poverty that has driven them to these low-income communities. Does the audience have any questions, please? I think we need one or two questions.
Hi.
Yes, please.
I'm Raini here.
Go ahead, please.
Thank you for your interesting presentation, Dr. Azreen, sorry. Okay. So I have two questions here.
Okay.
Okay, the first one is how we can encourage this group of people to come to this urban park, as what we know that they are busy earning money for their daily life. Okay, how we are going to encourage them. And the second question is about how do you choose your respondent? Because from your analysis that you showed just now, the age of the respondent is among 20 years old above, right? So what happened to the rest of the age, of other age? So how do you choose that respondent? Okay, that's all. Thank you.
Please, Azreen, could you please respond to those questions? The question number one is that the low-income people are constantly struggling to make the ends meet, and they don't have leisure time as such to be visiting parks. They are working from morning till dusk to make some money to survive. So how do you expect them to be visiting parks and enjoying life like the others do? And then that will add to more stress because they don't have time to be making money. This is the first question. And the second question is about the age group of the people whom you have researched, because the low-income community is not confined to this particular age group of young people alone. So how would you respond to those two questions, please?
Yes, for the first question, how to encourage more of this from these groups to the park. From the previous studies has shown that when the local authorities of the management, they create some of the programs that going to be, some of it is to generate some of the monies to the low income, so they can increase the numbers of the visitation and the frequency of the visit. So most of the low incomes, they don't have times to visit, but however, with the involvement of the activities that are going to generate their incomes, they are going to extend their interest to visit the park. For the second question, which is how I'm going to, how I gather the respondents. For the age limits, we start with the 12 years and above, because for the SPSS, to identify the stress level, we require the numbers of age, which is the start from the 12 years old. And how I approach the respondents is by the face-to-face, by go to their housing area, which is, we know that Malaysian already gazetted, we have the PPR, which is the Perumahan Project Rakyat, whereas only eligible for the low income, which is have the household income that less than 3,000. So when I identify the low income, there's directly I focusing on the PPR area. So that would be instead of the questions from the questionnaires that we put the numbers of the salaries based on the numbers of the Malaysian have been grouping all the incomes. I think that's it based on your question, Dr. Aini.
All right.
Okay, thank you.
Okay,
Thank you very much. Our time is up. So thank you very much,
Okay.
Nasreen, for that very interesting presentation about the relationship between mental health and urban parks. We listened to another research recently in the previous session about the importance of exposing children to nature, and I think this is another study that seems to contribute to the very same idea that the nature can contribute tremendously to the mental health as well as growth of individuals as they grow from childhood upwards. Thank you very much. Let's now move on to our next presentation, which is by Muhammad, Noridaya, Ainur, Noor, and Zainab. They are going to talk about challenges in managing university land use to generate income. It's going to do a review of the university land use. Thank you very much, Mohammed. It's over to you.
Hello.
Yes, I can hear you. Let's open the presentation. Yes, open the presentation and we can start off.
Okay, very good evening to Prof and other participants. Today I would like to present my paper. It's about a challenge in managing university land use to generate income, a review. So my background. Public university in worldwide are experiencing a final difficulty in managing their operations. This one of the reasons is a reduction of budget allocated by the higher government. Therefore, university need to evolve their revenue source from traditionally based on government fund and student fees. They need to diversity of their income in a different way. Therefore, one of the initiative is university land use to generate income. University land is university land have a good strategic location. Therefore, they can use this can use by university to generate income by their land. However, for university to use their land for generate income, university need to face several of challenge. Therefore, my aim of this study is to explore the management of university land use to generate income to help university stabilize their financial resource. The objective is to identify the challenge that need to be faced by university in managing their land use to generate income. the literature review. In generally, universities is education that focus on teaching, learning, and research based as their core business. However, they from time to time nowadays they need to evolve their current university management to covers others. University need to focus more than research, teaching, or learning to another way of management for covers their loss of income, loss of fund. So therefore, this is overview of strategy for managing university income. First, we can see university need in a strategic perspective is how and to what extent institution goal and education, research, human resource, and valuation of knowledge to support and achieve or obstructed with their current real estate portfolio. Second is fundamental perspective is the number of type of user that must be accommodated and specified with a current campus occupied and frequency rate. Third is financial perspective, include the campus investment resources on real estate and value the campus represent. Last is a physical perspective is a quantity and quality of current and future campus, including allocated characteristic types and type of space, condition, and age of the building. Next, this is also a literature review. Another part of how university can use their land to generate income, we must see to from the perspective of university land use in Malaysia. Land use control is a method used by government to achieve a goal in their country. In perspective of land use of university land use categorized based on National Land Code 1965 is a building based on this section 116 subsection 4D National Land Code, and institution building is a building that provided education, medical, and veterinary or welfare facilities. Therefore, university land use must comply with a community guideline gazetted by Town and Country Planning Department, Peninsular Malaysia, as shown in the table. This is the guideline based on the how university is supposed to build their building at or used in the building. As we can see, it's generally based on what university education and learning need. There are no use of land use to generate income. So in my method, I use a quantitative method, a secondary data, statute, journal, books, or various source, namely published or perish, Web of Science, Google, and Crossref. Based on the secondary data, I use a content analysis to apply, which is a technique to examine content or information available in written document. Therefore, this is my finding. This finding determine 3 challenges university have to face. The first challenge is strategic plan. For university to generate income in land use, university must have a proper plan for use their land to generate income. Based on strategic income, the challenge faced by university is about leadership. Leadership is how leadership must be an important thing, because a leader as a responsible to draft their strategies. So in order to the university to generate income based on the land use, university need have a leadership that have a mind of income generation. Secondly is information management. In information management, the challenge is university lack of information management in terms of their land to use to generate income. This is important because information management can lead to a successful factor of land use to generate income. And in other part, land use in university is also about education. Therefore, the information management is important to stabilize their use in order to generate income and teaching facilities. Secondly is financial management. As we all know, to generate income by land use is need of cost. It needs a bigger cost. So it is a challenge for university to have a greater cost for to generate their income. And other part is challenge in increasing value. Challenge in increased value based on from at the first university use their land based on education. If they are converting to generate income, they will increasing the value of market value. They also have increasing the taxation that and the expenditures that will cost their financial management. So they need a proper strategies to help them to guide based on this impact. Last is land legalization and regulation. It is challenge in university complying with land legislation and regulation. In terms of land use, every land must follow local authority and state land legislation. Therefore, in university perspective, they also have to follow that to make sure their land can be used for generating income. As a discussion, we can see it as two part of challenge for university to generate income. The first part is university land management. It is income generation is a new method in university management system. Therefore, there are many lack of in terms of their management. And other part is land legislation and regulation. A complicated work process involving process and state government law. As a discussion, based on the challenge, they need to improve on have a clear strategies. The clear strategies help university to have a proper land use management for their income generation. And number two is assign an expert. One of part of the challenge of university land management is legal process. So they need an expert that can help them for create a better decision. And then a financial management. Financial management. If university have a proper financial management, they can help them for guide them for cost for their generate income. Thank you.
Mohammed, thank you for that research. I have some fundamental questions about what you are looking at. You are trying to say that universities are restrained by the financial resources offered by the governments and therefore should be looking at the land, university land, as an income generating resource. I think this is a questionable idea to begin with, in my opinion, and I want you to answer, because you are saying financial management, having experts and all of those things will yield some income for the university. But the university's best asset is not the land.
Yeah.
University's best asset is its faculty and education that they can sell. So if a university is restricted with financial resources, what they should actually do is not to try to become like a property developer, which they are not, but capitalize on the best resource they have, which is education and the faculty who can generate income. Research can generate income, education can generate income. And instead of doing that, why do you think that they should be trying to use little bit of land here and there available in the university to make money, when actually we know the university populations will increase and the university will need more land to make more building for more students to be admitted to the university? There is a fundamental question here. Why should they be looking at the land as the resource to make money when they have other more meaningful and more powerful resources to generate income? This is a fundamental question.
Okay. Okay. Firstly, the university can use their land for generating income because they have a strategic location that surrounding them is housing that or some so they can use their land to develop not whole their land, but some of their land to generate income by building some commercial building as a restaurants or a hotel. So based on that, they can generate income not for surrounding areas, but they can use by students, so they can make money from there.
Okay, there is a question from the audience. Let's see what the audience has to say. Yes, Khairul, please. Khairul, we cannot hear you. Can you can you open the mic?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah?
we can hear you now. Yes, we can hear you now.
Can you hear me? Okay, Fadli, a quick question. Do you have a statistics that show that by selling the university land actually generate incomes for the university?
No,
that's my question.
It's about not about selling. It can be do by in terms of lease.
Generating, using the land for generating more income. That's what I mean.
Yeah.
He's saying to be like a property developer.
Property developer. I kind of agree with you, Prof. Ranjit, because yeah, there is a quick money coming in, like a corporate sectors. Our GLC some more they can have and generate income from that. But universities, interesting study needs to be done, and how our universities policy makers think to find a way in income generation. Yeah. So that's my point of view. Can you hear?
Yeah. So
yeah.
basically, in terms of income generation by land use, it's not about
selling.
Yes, it can
not
be
selling.
Lease. It can be rented. So
rental.
Yeah, it can be partnership with
partnership. So which university are doing that?
Basically, you can see at UTM residency.
UTM.
So, they are renting hotel and they are renting a shop at their residencies. For that's kind of way they can generate income. But it's also important that university core business is study and research. So that's why we need a proper strategy that can we use whole land. How much portion for general income? How much portion for?
Because they have to maintain the land anyway, right?
Yes.
For the rental, for the maintenance.
Yes.
But anyway, that's a question, Prof. Ranjit.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Khairul. I think there are some basic questions the university will need to address, because in the first place, university does not have property development capacities and expertise to do this sort of business, really speaking. That will draw their attention away from education. That can compromise the land available for students' use. And they are not using their best resources, which is, like I said, the faculty and the knowledge that the
lecturers, research.
And research. That's where the income generation can actually be focused instead of trying to be a property developer. So I think maybe some universities are doing little bit of things like that here and there when the opportunities are available. But whether this should be a main strategy of universities to start using their land is a big question mark. I think you need to be re-examining that question.
Yeah, and further research need to be done. Why? Again, why and to what extent is really it actually showing income generations for our universities, especially public universities.
Yeah, they are public and the land belongs to the government, by the way.
Exactly.
Right. Thank you very much, Mohammed, anyway, and we will move on to the next presenter.
Yeah,
and
thank you, Mohammed.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have Dr. Azarino and Dr. Khairul and Dr. Chi talking about workplace stigmatism. For the
a quick questions, a big notes for this presentation. I would bring upon all participants that this is a grant that we received through our Sumitomo Foundation. Yeah, it was we got the grant in 2019. Interesting about this grant is came from 3 universities. From first Dr. Azarina Zakaria from UITM, second me, Khairul Saida from University of Malaya, and the last one is our international counterpart, Dr. Chair Yoruzo in Ayoma Gakuin University. Actually, the big chunk for this research is about employment experiences of Japanese and Malaysian mother who having for special needs children. So that's a big chunk of that grant. So anyway, we teased out some of our themes from that workplace experience, employment experience of these mothers with special children. And now we are presenting to you the workplace stigmatism, the voices of mother with disabled children. All right. So like I said, this grant is only 1 year. The Sumitomo Foundation is only 1 year, 2019 until 2020. More or less, we recruited a few participants from Malaysia-based and also Japanese-based. Okay. So as a background, I want to bring all of you first big chunk of this research for this paper only. Again, this is one of our themes, stigma. All right. Stigma is when people typically perceive and view you as with negative perception. You have disabilities, and people say, somebody's not really following the norms. That is stigma. But we focus for this team, workplace stigmatism, and how somehow the workplace stigmatism brings an effect to this worker. That worker, we zoom in to mothers, primarily is caring mostly for kids, for the children. Now is mothers. We zoom in again to mothers with not normal, typical mothers, but mothers who's having a disabled children. So all this stigma, workplace stigmatism, mothers of disabled children bring in for this paper. All right. The big chunk that we want to know is to understand, okay, clarify, elucidate the workplace stigmatism experience, if any, faced by these mothers of disabled children. Interesting enough, because I would say that this research is very, what should I say, sensitive. It is sensitive. It's very emotional because talking about mothers, mothers, and with their kids. All women will acknowledge that talking about kids, we are very attached to our kids as mothers. All right. So literature reviews, I said, not going to talk about a lot, but literature have shown that stigma is negatively evaluated differences. Green HL to 2005, it shows the disgrace attributes that do not meet society's norm. All right. So with this stigma, people perceive you are a little bit different, a bit different. So when a bit different in this workplace, the workplace stigmatism somehow affect not only that individual, but also their mothers, because I want you to see how we bring stigma, stigmatism, workplace stigmatism, mothers, and mothers with disabled children. The last one to say that the stigma experiences affect individual, family members, especially the mothers with the disabled children. So like I said in the introduction, mothers are the primary caregivers. Literature has highlighted that. We are actually meeting demands of the workplace and care of mothers at place, especially for these mothers. But now we focus on mothers with disabled children, and we believe that somehow the workplace stigma is a significant problem that needs more attention because it affects their career, it affects their well-being. Okay, so now we go to method. This is purely qualitative research. I did the data collection. I did the one who interview these mothers. Interesting thing about this research, I think our first principal as a researcher, she just how should I say, advertise those mother that interested to be interviewed by us about this research grant, employment experiences of mothers caring for kids with special needs attention. Okay, so when she posts out that advertisement at her Facebook and Instagram, if I'm not mistaken, we got 3 interested mothers, that are willing to be interviewed. So we confirmed the interview session. I went there first time, listen to them, understanding them. Again, this is qualitative researcher, understanding emotionally. I would say I cried. I would say, because when this mother talk about how do they have to face this kind of stigmatism at workplace, it just feel so hard and so sad, because this mother are actually trying to survive, working, and at the same time need to take care of their special needs children. All right, but for this team, like I said, we tease out the team. We have several teams, but workplace stigmatism is one team that we have picked for this paper. For this team, the total up for this participant, we got 10 from Malaysian base. I would say the Japan mother is not really that successful. We only got 3. For the total of this grant, for this research, we got 13 participants. But for this teams, we tease out, and only 5 mothers are showing and said and telling us as an evidence they are having this. For the paper, we can say that the 5 mothers are between 39 to 49 years old. They have quite a good position. Some are lecturers, some are working at a hospital, and also representing a variety of structure and situation. And again, we can see the highlighted of they are the one who caregivers for all these disabled children and have different kind of various disabilities. All right. Finally, this is the interesting part. I'm presenting to you 2 teams. What should I say? Because I was the one who interviewed them. Mothers are incapable. What does it mean? Before, okay, this is the real evidence, the real story they told me. Before this, I work in a broadcasting. Broadcasting, meeting people, very engaged with a lot of activities at the higher level management. But once this mother has a special needs children, suddenly she been transferred to another, I think, corporate strategy or something, with the reason being, oh, it's more suitable to you because it's easier for you if you need to take immediate leaves or what sorts. So once these mothers once this mother told the management, I have some, it's not a problem, some issues. Management need to know. I have a special children, so I help the management do understand my situation. So with that, they also been seen as incapable in some situation. For example, if they were ever late to work, the management or the colleague or the bosses or the peers, we always say, oh, it's because of your kids, right? That's why you are late. which they feel is like, not necessarily it's because of my kid. Sometimes I really am late. So it's not necessarily everything lacking because of my special needs children. So these mothers are facing this. The second one, theme, I would say that mothers are taking advantage. What is mean? There's one participant, she works at the hospital at Putrajaya. I met her. She always said to me, whenever I have to take leave, because you have to know special needs children, again, they are special, they need attention. They always have to go to hospital for therapies, for appointments, doctor appointments, and checking up there and there. So even along the way, these mothers have to use all their annual leaves, finish all the annual leave only for the intention for these special kids, for these special needs children. And even they finish their leaves, they have to take, we call it in Malaysia public sector, we have time leave, we have to fill up that form. So this nurse, we always, chief clerk, we always fill in that form, because she said, I don't want people to say that I'm taking advantage just because I am a mother with special needs children. Okay, for the discussion, meeting them, talking to them, feeling and emotionally hurt whatever that they've been told, they've been telling me during the data collection. It shows that it is a compelling evidence. We have the workplace stigmatism for these mothers. Okay, mothers that caring for special needs children. Mothers, all these mothers, however, legitimize that. Somehow we be stigmatized at workplace, but it's okay. They said, they told me it's okay. It's norm and sensible, because I know we cannot really, what should I say? We cannot really perform that much, because we always have things or issues that we need to go back urgently or immediately because of our devoted attention to this kid. Again, remember, these are special needs children. It's not like normal children. However, again, these mothers proudly say we will maintain the resilience to go to work, to get some salary for their family, and they will also maintain a sense of integrity. All right, as conclusion and recommendation, there are workplace stigma has been experienced by these working mothers at the office, as simple as that. This workplace stigma is totally unhealthy. Okay, negative understanding given to them, negative perception about their capabilities, making excuses of this because they are caring for these special needs children. So we recommend that a structural intervention more to the workplace. Maybe somehow we give some, what should I say, some leeway, some, what should I say, some advantages if there is, they have issues at home because need to entertain these kids, especially children. We have to give a way to that. Somehow the office need to understand they will face this kind of situation that they have to go back and handle their kids. And also the reformation, the awareness, education again, awareness. It shouldn't be any workplace stigmatism to support this SGD 8 of United Nations. And after all, just be a nice and good individual to understand their situation. I think that's all. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Khairul, for that very interesting presentation about the stigmatism in the workplace of the disabled mothers of disabled children. I'm just curious, for this issue to be really serious, are there a lot of mothers with disabled children in workplaces? I mean, there could be one or two in an office, but are there quite a lot of them?
There are a lot, but because of this stigmatism, they don't tell people. You get what I mean?
Now, to begin with, there should be a lot of disabled people
Yeah,
in,
yeah.
in the
Kids,
society.
Yes,
In the
yes.
society, and then their mothers must be working.
Yes,
And-
must be working. They need money anyway, right?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
are there in the university where you working, for example, are there a lot of people who have
we-
disabled children?
We do have, especially in UM, the department who handling that students. And if at my faculty, whenever we have this special needs student, we highlight that at the faculty level. We do have,
Yeah.
and we will be informed.
Yes.
We will be informed of that condition.
But why does this stigmatism arise in the first place? That society is reasonably well educated now, and they know that disability is a situation that one cannot do anything about, and their mothers are helpless. And why should there be stigmatism against them?
We feel that they're not supposed to be like that, right? We are very educated human beings. Somehow don't underestimate people and some. But whenever I talk to these mothers, there are some stigmatism towards them because I'm having a specialist kid, then suddenly my peers look at me a different way. So why? Yeah, before this, no. But after they know, they are treating me a different way. Oh, I cannot really give you that work because somehow you need to go back earlier, right? So that kind of thing
You
happens.
think that's negative, that they are paying more caring attitude? Oh, this lady has to go home because she has a child.
Yes.
Is that negative, or is it positive that other people care about it?
Maybe certain people, it's okay because we are giving some advantages to them, meaning that we are giving you okay to go back early. But for this mother, you have to remember, this mother somehow before this, they are very potential talent, a very good talent in the organization. So when they be treated such a way after having the kids, so they feel, what's wrong? I feel useless. I feel so useless.
Right.
I feel so useless. So we somehow need to address that because anyway,
So
we are normal human being.
Yeah. Did you discover in your research what should be done to avoid and eliminate the stigmatism?
Oh my gosh, a lot. Because somehow, like you said, is to make it so serious. It seems like it's not serious, but it is serious. Or else we're going to lose some talent and potential of these mothers. I've met a vice president of big conglomerate in Malaysia. Even she said to me, if my office did not give me assistance, I will not continue my work. So it seems like if we don't address this properly, we're going to lose a lot of good talent. As simple as that.
Yeah. All right. Thank you very much.
Okay. Question from the floor?
Any questions from the floor?
Yes. I have questions.
Yes.
Assalamualaikum.
Salam tu lah. Tak dengar. Salam tu lah.
Can you hear?
Yeah, can. Bakat is quite busy.
All right. I'm not sure about the stigmatizations involving the woman in nowadays.
Yeah.
People are more open-minded.
Educated. Yep.
Government also gives a lot of incentives.
Yeah.
For those, especially single mothers.
Yeah.
Especially single mothers. But I do want to ask you, maybe from Universiti Malaysia, or maybe the rest of other audience who are not from universities, in terms of policy that support the mothers having this kind of candidates. You're talking about the candidates who is disabled, can be in the form of physical and like handicap, blind and all that. I call it as physical. And also it can be in terms of mental.
Yeah.
We have OCD and all this.
ADHD.
So in terms of this policy that we have within university or corporate, especially in university, okay, does like in the does UM's policy in approving leave for mothers who like to take leave for their disabled children with disability, which is more than the age of 18.
Okay.
So that's my question to you.
I think so far we don't really have guidelines, especially for mothers or those with family with special needs children or special needs kids in the family. You can have extra leave just because to entertain or have to deal with that with the situation. No, we don't have, unless again you want to take your own annual leave. They finish all the annual leave, yeah, mind you, everything annual leave, and there is not even the unrecorded leave, nothing, unless they're dead. Yeah, unrecorded leave only for a special arrangement if your family member is dead or what sort. But to handle or to maybe to bring these kids to hospital, for example, therapists, I don't think we have a clear guideline allowing that. Maybe case by case, but at UM is ourselves, we don't have that. Still go with your annual leave. But here again, between you and your head of department, to have some mercy or empathy with the situation.
All right.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you very much, Khairul. That was a very nice presentation as well as a very fruitful discussion, and we discovered lots of things. And in any case, these situations need to be addressed without any question. And thank you for doing the research. Time is running out. Yeah, time is running out. So let's move on. We'll move to the next presenter. Thank you, Khairul, for the presentation. We'll move to the next presenter.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening to Prof. Rajik and my colleagues in UITM and everyone's in the rooms here. So today I'm going to present my research topic. So my name is Chong Siu Hui, so from UITM Puncak Alam. So I will be presenting my research topic on environmental quality and economic growth. Especially, this is an empirical analysis together with my friends, Tun Yun Lee, which is from Universiti Tunku Abdul Rahman, and then Dr. Said, which is from Pakistan. And then my supervisor when I was doing my PhD, which is Dr. Raneswari from Saito University College. So I hope you can see my screen. So am I sharing my full screen? Can you see my screen clearly? I hope that is okay. So yeah. So you can see this is a pie chart that I extracted from IPCC, which is Intergovernmental Panel of Climate Change. So we are looking at as an empirical study. So as we can see here, we look into the global greenhouse emission by gas. So at the global scale, we can see the key greenhouse gases emitted by human activities are fossil fuels. Fossil fuels use is a primary source of CO2. And second one is carbon dioxide, which is from forestry and other land use. So as you can see, these CO2 can be emitted from direct human-induced impacts on forestry and land use, for example, through deforestation, land clearing, and agriculture, even degradations of soils. So in our study, we look into gas emission, mainly focus on CO2 as a proxy of environmental quality. So we want to look into the long-run relationship between environmental quality, which is proxy by CO2 emissions, and economic growth, proxy by GDP growth in Asian countries, 43 Asian countries. So if you're asking why we look into Asian countries, so there are a few reasons why we choose Asian countries as our sample, as our main focus on this paper. It's because the first is according to World Economics. So Asian country right now is about 45% of global GDP, and it will actually projected to reach about 50% in 2030. So the next one is Asian country. They are actually developing countries with scarce capitals. So they are mainly focused on cumbersome technology. So which operates by using fossil fuels. So these cause the green gas emissions actually to be higher in these Asian countries. Sorry, it's Asian country. All right. So by looking into the literature's review, so we can see existing literature reviews, especially on panel study, they are not showing a very, they are showing actually a very mixed and inconclusive result. The recent study, they have actually shown that economic growth and carbon dioxide, they are having significant relationship. But some of the study, they are saying that no, they are not having any significant relationship between CO2 emissions and economic growth. So it actually leads us to questions by looking in how about Asian country. So of course, we do have some studies on Asian countries, but the result, the outcome, the empirical study, existing empirical studies is again mixed and inconclusive. And mainly it's because most of the study, they actually focus on different country settings. So we can see actually Middle East and North African countries, they're having a different impact or different outcomes if we compare to OECD country or even developed countries. So our study, again, we look into Asian country. How about Asian country? So of course, we do have some assumption on our own, right? So how about, so is that the higher CO2 emission will contribute to higher economic growth? So we are going to look into long run relationship by looking into, this is a panel study. So we look into PMG, we are using PMG, which is a pooling group approach. So we want to look into the long run relationship. So 43 Asian countries from 2002 and 2018. So because of the data availability, we are able to do this. So once we are having updated data, so we will again update our results as soon as possible. I'm going to show you my results. So this is just a part of my our group estimation results. So if you're interested to look into more details, so you can go into my our full paper to have a look. So we do have a long run relationship and short run relationship. But because our main objective is focused on long run relationship, so right now I'm showing you the results on long run coefficients. So first and foremost, you can see the error correction adjustment is negative and significant. So it actually shows negative and significant. It means that there is an adjustment from short run to long run across a sample of Asian countries. So the main interest, as you can see, the first one, the main interest of a variable, economic growth, is positive and significant. So we actually affirm the long run relationship between economic growth and CO2, which is measured by environmental quality, So we found that the higher the economic growth, the higher the CO2 consumption in the country as expected. Okay, so when the country when Asian country are having a higher economic growth, so they are having a higher CO2 emission. This is in long run. Okay, so in short run, interestingly, we found that economic growth has no harmful effects on CO2. So this is what we found. And we can have a look the other proxy as well. So we also use the other indicator, so which is industrial growth rate, population, foreign direct investment, and GDP per capita square, which is to show the inverted Kuznets hypothesis. All right. So we do have our robustness test. We use a fixed and random effect to look into to check the results. So as we can see, the main interest of variable, our economic growth, is again positive and significant on these proof estimations. So we actually the robustness check supports our first findings, which is a long run relationship between economic growth and CO2. So this is only a very beginnings of our studies. So we are going to have a lot of studies in future once we started this by looking into just Asian country, which is a relationship between CO2 and economic growth. So what we found is, as expected, the higher the economic growth, the higher the CO2 consumption of the country. So this is the first thing. The second is, in short run, interestingly, economic growth has no harmful impact on environmental quality. And something that we would like to highlight is we found that the estimations of foreign direct investment is actually draw our attention as well. So we found that the estimations of foreign direct investment in Asian country is positive and significant in our model. So meaning to say increase of FDI, decrease of CO2 emissions. So what we found is in short run, so it shows us a different result. So in short run, the country actually attracts FDI to pursue high economic growth. So this is why most of the country, they neglect the quality of the environment. But in long period of time, when we look into FDI, so the because of the deepenings of globalization, so actually the country begins to pay attention to environmental issues. So in the process of attracting FDI. So this is why FDI is positive and significant in the model. So as a conclusion, so we expect the government actually put more efforts to prioritizing the sustainable usage, especially on ecology policy. So investments on renewable energy, which is less harmful to the environment. We got it, for instance, wind, rain, sunlight, hydropower. Of course, is still very limited in Asian countries or even developing countries. But all these, I think, should be focused. We think should be focused on minimizing environmental pollution. So of course, we have to again encourage FDI for indirect investment with a focus of non-polluting sectors, especially, so to strengthen and to attain the sustainable development growth. So our study is just a beginning of a study. So in future, we will, based on these findings, and look into country comparisons, and by looking into more indicators, so to have greater pictures on these environmental issues on economic growth. So thank you, everyone. And this is my presentation today. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chong, for that very interesting presentation. It's obviously a very relevant and pertinent question, the conflict between economic growth and environmental quality has been there ever since we discovered the sustainability is an issue. You came out with a couple of interesting suggestions for economic growth to be based on non-polluting industries and activities and so on and so forth. But I have a question: who should actually, and how can we actually push the economic activities which are run by corporations and multinational companies and individuals who actually don't care about the environment as such? How can we push them to such activities which would not be polluting the environment? Who has the authority and the power to do that? Can the governments actually do that?
To be honest, I think self-awareness is very important. I don't think even right now, government has a lot of initiatives in pushing everyone by looking into the environmental quality. So, but I think most important is self-awareness. So everyone should know about the consequences of CO2 emissions to the countries. So then by then, I think in future, we hope the problem will solve slowly.
My other question
is this is a very long story.
Sure, of course. My other question is that we have been talking about these issues of sustainability and environmental qualities for quite a long time, from the Rio summit way back. How much has the world changed in the positive direction, or is the world going still on the negative path from your studies?
Yeah, based on my experience, or to the best of my knowledge, so most of the recent study right now, we're actually showing a very good relationship between CO2 and economic growth right now. So meaning to say people are actually more aware about the importance of environmental quality. But then, yeah, but this is from statistic.
Yes.
Yeah, so a lot of improvements needs to be done.
That's good to hear. Good. What would be the critical thing to push for this economic movement to take a different course particularly in the Asian context, which fortunately is not that developed and not that dependent on heavy industries, thankfully, that we are not as developed as the European countries. What would be the critical thing that the government should do to try and redirect the social development and economic growth in the right direction, in your experience?
From our study, so
yes.
we found a very interesting effect on the FDI on economic growth. So foreign direct investment is still very important to developing country and for Asian country as well. So we hope, I mean, from our study, we focus on, of course, economic growth as well, but we actually bring the importance of foreign direct investment by looking into when we are having deepening of globalization, so the country will be able to actually, what we say, begins to pay attention to those environmental issues when we processing impacting FDI. So that is, I think, for me, is a very good move for Asian countries and developing countries.
Thank you, Xiong. I will open the floor for discussion if anyone has a question. Mohammed Amirul, do you have a question? You came to the conference just now, and I thought maybe you have a big question. You have any questions from Xiong? No? No, you don't have any question. Anyone real? You have a question? You? Realme? Anyone has a question? This is a very valid and relevant, pertinent piece of research to connecting economy and environment quality. No questions? All right. If there are no questions, there are no questions because there are no answers, actually, I think. Most likely, but people must be busy doing things on their own. All right. Thank you very much, Xiong, for bringing attention to this very important issue of the contradiction between progress, economic development, and the environment. At the end of the day, environment matters more than economy, and every body will be able to survive only if the environment remains to exist in the way that it should sustain human life. Thank you for drawing attention to this, and we will move to the next presenter now.
Thank you, Prof. Razi.
Thank you very much.
Have a nice day, everyone.
Thank you very much. Okay, now we will go back to Mohammed Amirul, who was expected to present on sleep deprivation and study habit effects towards medical imaging students in UTAMM. Over to you, Mohammed.
Can you see my slide?
We can see your presentation, and we can see you. We can hear you. We can see you as well. So great, thank you. Go ahead. 12:30. You have 10 minutes.
Okay, no, thank you. Okay, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Very good evening to the chairperson and then all the audience. So my name is Muhammad Amirul bin Tajuddin from Center for Medical Imaging Studies in UTN Puncak Alam, Selangor. So today I'm going to present my study entitled Sleep Deprivation and Study Habit Effects toward Medical Imaging Students in UTN Puncak Alam. All right. So as a background, so you know what is happening in our world. We have pandemics, COVID-19 in the first case in 2019, and then the first case in Malaysia in 2020. So what has happened during this pandemic? So all of our daily routine been disturbed. So we cannot do the normal routine. So we need to a lot of modification to our daily life, right? And then on March 2020, so movement control order be enforced in Malaysia by the government. So a lot of thing is changed. And then I think most of non-essential service are required to work from home. So and then on this research in this study we just focus on educational fields. So when we cannot do face-to-face learning, so all of the learnings is switched to online distant learning. And then because of that, a lot of situations is changed. So in terms of how do we handle the lecture, and then how about the environment and so on, right? So we are going to a lot of things will affect the study during the OGL. And then in this study, I only focus on study pattern and study habits. So the aim of this study is to evaluate the effect of sleep deprivations and study habits during online distance learning among students. And then the objective of the study is to evaluate the relationship between sleep deprivation and study habits with academic performance among students during ODM. Okay, some of the literature view regarding this study. So we know what is the effect of sleep deprivations. So the first, slow factor reaction time. That's mean someone that have sleep deprivation. So if we ask them to do some tasks, so it will take some delay due to their less of sleep. And then other than that, it gives them some craziness, endless distraction on the body's capacity to deal with data. So for example, we ask them to do some tasks related with calculation. So it also will have some delay. And then it also affects in terms of the memory, consideration, and dynamics. Okay, so for study habits, what we can define as a study habit? So it's defined as method and study skill, and then amount of time, studying strategies, and then studying environment. So we know when we conduct the lecture face-to-face, so the student will go to the lecture hall and then listen to the lecture and meet their lecture mates. While when in ODL, so the study environment is totally changed 360 degree. So what will happen in ODL, so students are not required to go to the lecture hall. So they are sit on their own home. So they just turn on their laptop and then just listen to the lecture online. So that's mean they manage their times by their own. So so the environment is totally different with face-to-face. And Count and Sin in 2020 and ABRA et al. Suggest that correlations of study habits with the academic performance of the student. So study habit factors of the student is important as it could help in developing a well-defined study habit program for issues concerning academic performance. Okay, for methodology, so this is called search in a study. So we distribute questionnaire online using Google Form. There are 42 questions adapted from Mashwari and Shaukat 2019 and with all 2016. And then we conducted this study in UIT and Puncak Alam, Faculty of Health Science, so focus only for student medical imaging course. So from December 2021 until February 2022. And then the total population of the student is 303 students. So the actual sample size respondents, there is 191 respondents. Okay, some of inclusion criteria. So only full-time diploma and bachelor student of medical imaging UIT and Puncak Alam. So this study is valid for medical imaging students. So second year to final year and age 18 and above and proficient in English. And then because we only the question only in English. Okay. So for exclusion criteria, so we do not include first year student because they register at the university during the pandemics, and then they are their first time in university. So maybe they have some other factor that will influence their study habits. And then we also exclude the distance learning EPJJ students. All right, so some of the findings. So 130 students who had poor sleep as compared to good sleep, that is 62 students. So we present 31.9%. So most students in this study had sleep deprivation with a score of more than 5 based on the PSQ1 score. So majority of the students had poor study habits during LDM. There is 71.2% as compared to students with a good study habit. There is 28.8%. So the next one is relationship between some demographic characteristic and sleep deprivation. So we try to look at regarding the difference of the gender, whether it has some significant value or not. So the number of female students had poor sleep is 115. there is 70%, so higher than good sleep student. There is only 49, that is 30%. So that means the number of female students had poor sleep is higher than number of students that have good sleep. So number of male students had poor sleep is about 15, that is 56% higher than good sleep student. There is only 12 students that represent 44%. So both female and male students have high percentage of poor sleep compared with good sleep. So no significant correlation between gender difference on sleep deprivation. So bachelor level has sleep deprivations as compared to students from diploma, and then no significant correlation between the level of education and sleep deprivation. Okay, the next one is we try to correlate between their quality of sleep with their performance on academic in terms of their CGPA. So most of the students who have sleep deprivations, so I divide into 3 classes of CGPA, that is the excellent and the moderates and the weaks. So most of the students who have sleep deprivation, poor sleep, have fairly good CGPA, which is between 2.5 to 3.45. So there's about 100 students, represent 52.4%. And furthermore, the most of the students who have good sleep also got fairly good CGPA, which is between 2.5 to 3.46. Some of these discussions. Okay, for sleep deprivation and study habit among students. So majority students have poor sleep and poor habit. So no significant correlation between sleep deprivation and study habits. So effect of sleep deprivation on academic performance of students. So there is no significant correlation between gender and sleep deprivation. So this sleep deprivation can reduce the probability of students getting good marks in exam. So both male and female have higher risk of experience sleep loss, which will disturb their decision making of the person. Study habit among students during ODL and academic performance. Students who had fairly good study habits, the majority were from the CGPA 2.5 to 3.49, and then no significant correlation between study habits and academic performance of the students. That's conclusion. Okay, sleep deprivation and poor study habit are seen as high for majority of the students. Unlikely, even though they have poor study habit and sleep deprivation, they still can manage to get a fairly good CGPA, that is around 2.5 to 3.49, which are second class and still a fairly good pointer for CGPA. So some of the recommendations, so recommend for higher institution and students to create awareness of sleep deprivation and study skill, which will improve their education performance. So other than that, institution can invite certified motivator or counselor to help the student identify their learning style. Thank you.
Thank you, Mohammed, for that very interesting presentation about this issues of sleep deprivation among the medical students. I'm just curious that sleep deprivation is obviously a factor in not only medical students, but I believe it is among many university students and particularly architecture students who hardly sleep when they have juries coming up.
Yeah.
But it is a personal thing, isn't it? It is the way in which each student decides to work and manages his or her time. And what can others do about a student being at home and having to work on his academic submissions, sleeping or not sleeping? What can others do?
What can us do?
How can we, I mean, we can research and understand that it has a serious effect. Sleep deprivation, even not among medical students, even among ordinary people will be an issue. If you don't sleep, which is a natural medical biological process by which bodies are refreshed.
Yeah.
Sleep deprivation is an issue, but it's a personal behavioral practice. So I'm just curious, from your findings, what can we do about sleep deprivation among university students and particularly medical students?
Okay, first, this one is medical imaging student, not medical student. Okay, just to let you know, and then according to your question, so because this one is ODL, so the students are not in the hostel, so they are with their own family, so maybe that's why I think if they live with their own lecture mates in their hostel, so the environment make them to have a good sleep because they can plan more efficient in terms of how to study, and they can arrange their time of sleep, where they should study, when they should sleep. But if they practice the ODL in their own home, they need to be disciplined, and then they need to make sure that they have a good sleep and consistent sleep every day. So they need to plan their times.
Yeah, but my question is that it is a personal choice.
Yeah, that's personal choice. But that's why we need to create some awareness to them, just to give them.
Are you saying these students are not aware of the ill effects of sleep deprivation on their well-being?
They have. Pardon, Doctor?
Are you saying that they are not aware of the ill effects, bad effects of sleep deprivation on their well-being?
No, I think they are aware about the effect of the sleep deprivations, but sometimes even though they're aware, but they not try to improve their behavior, so it's going to affect the academic performance, and plus the health issue.
True. So what is the significance of your research in this case? If this is a personal decision when one goes to sleep or does not go to sleep, how one plans one's work and so on is a personal decision, and neither you nor I or no any other university professor can influence them to discipline themselves, can we?
We only can, that's why we only can, that's why I recommend for us to create the awareness, more awareness to them. So that's the only thing for me that we as a lecturer can ask the student. Other, if they want to follow or not, we cannot control. It's right. So
exactly.
The only thing that we can do is just create the awareness, more awareness to them.
Yes.
So
I was under the impression they are aware of it in the first place, because, by the way, they are medical students, isn't it? You're not looking at medical students.
This one for medical imaging student.
Yes, so they are the ones who are going to tell patients and others like you and me the effects of biologically dismantling or disturbing biological processes and sicknesses and illnesses that can come from it. They are more aware of it than other people. So are they or not?
But they are not medical students, sir. They are medical imaging students. They are not become doctor.
In a way, they are aware of the biological process. Isn't it? They are. Okay. Anyway, so I'm just wondering what we can do about it, because as a research, it's good to find these things out, but then at the end of the day, the research must lead to some kind of recommendations and conclusions and actions that can be done to remedy and rectify those situations. And I'm just feeling that there is nothing we can do, really speaking, because it's a personal choice. Each individual student decides when to go to bed, when to sleep, when not to sleep.
I'm quite agree with you, but the only thing that what I say, it's our responsibility to keep reminding them. Just that is going to affect the academic performance.
True. Okay, let's open the floor for discussion and see how others feel about this issue of sleep deprivation. I'm sure everyone has experienced sleep deprivation, not sleeping enough when you have a submission in the university. Anyone has a question? No questions? Azreen, obviously you have a question. No? Riza, you have a question? I'm just trying to get some questions from the audience. No, it doesn't look like there are questions in the audience. They are not interested in sleep deprivation. Thank you very much anyway for bringing attention to this issue of sleep deprivation. I fully agree with you that sleep deprivation does have effects on individuals. Yes, Professor Yusuf, you want to say something? I cannot hear you. Your mic is not working.
Okay.
Right. I was smiling actually when you posed a question regarding architectural students.
Exactly. I mean, they are the ones who don't sleep at all.
So when I look at you, Ranjit, are you serious? I mean, for those who are not aware about the life of an architecture student, which me and Ranjit shares, right? I mean, we are not like engineers, because engineers, they work with formulas and voila, you get you get your solutions with a formula. Now for architecture students who have to crack their head,
you have sleepless nights. You have sleepless nights.
Get ideas, and it's just amazing. Over the 6 years that we've gone through for architecture education, I mean, it's like that. The discipline is like that. Its design is so so abstract and
so demanding.
It's there is no formula for it. That's why there is no specific time. It's well, those were the days. Anyway, thanks Ranjit for reminding about
because it reminded me of a study done in England about students who come to the university, brush their teeth in the morning at the university and sleep on the chairs before the juries because they never slept the last night before the jury. It's common practice everywhere in the world.
And they get chased off.
This reminded me.
Yeah, they get chased off.
Yeah, exactly.
Well,
anyway, thank you very much. Let's move on to our final presentation today from Asmi bin Mat, who's going to talk about imbuing sustainable consumption behavior vis-a-vis Islamic values.
To those
Asmi, you are around?
Right.
Yes.
To those who are here, we will extend the registration to 6:30 today. Okay.
All right, I'll start my presentation shortly. So first of all, very good evening, everyone. So thank you for waiting for the last presentation. Okay, today I will be presenting my research entitled Imbuing Sustainable Consumption Behavior vis-a-vis Islamic Value, a Systematic Review. So my name is Asmi bin Mat. I'm from the Department of Entrepreneurship and Marketing Studies from Universiti Teknologi MARA, Puncak Alam. So as for the introduction, we do not inherit the earth from our ancestors, but we borrow it from our children. All right. So as for the introduction, in 1972, at the United Nations Conference on the Human Environment in Stockholm, the challenge of maintaining sustainability in economic growth and development was brought to global forefront. So the sustainability has been the theme for many conferences. And in 2015, the United Nations introduced the Sustainable Development Goals that also emphasize on the sustainable consumption, because our consumption is no longer sustainable, and then we will be hampering our effort to create a high quality of life as well. So what is sustainable consumption? It's often synonymous and interlinked with ecologically responsible behavior, sometimes also known as environmental friendly behavior, ethical consumption, green consumption, and also known as pro-environmental behavior. It's just a term. All right. So according to Stern 2000, he defined as human activities that generate intention related to environmental protection or environmental deterioration prevention. Means that as a consumers, we must think the consequences of our consumption towards the environment when we buy or purchase something. So that means by the sustainable consumption, including also activities like you join the activities, environmental activities, or you do the recycling activities, or you just switch off, as simple as you switch off the lights or the switch before you leave your house or your home. All right. So what are the issues? The world now is facing severe environmental issues due to the rapid growth of the world's population. So in 2050, the population in the world is expected to reach about 10.2 billion. And in Malaysia itself, all right, currently we have about 32 million populations, but in 2040, the Malaysian population is expected to expand or increase up to 41.5 million. So by the increasing of this number, it's also expected that the need for natural resources also will be increased. But if we continue our current purchasing or our consumption, we actually need 3 planets of Earth to support our current spending and our current consumption. So the growth in population contribute to the increase in human activities and other economic activities, including consumption. And it has been noted that consumption of everyday goods has an enormous impact on the environment. Human activities, including solid waste generation and recycling, have threatened the environment. As well in Malaysia, the campaign for recycling or recycle or 3R, reduce, reuse, and recycle, has met the failure. All right, in Malaysia, if consumers do not change their current lifestyles and be the agent of change, there would be a potent impediment to achieving in high quality of life. In Malaysia as well, when the government announced the budget in 2021 for the budget, national budget for 2022, the government also emphasized on to enhance or to increase the quality of life, and also government policy also aligned with the United Nations to achieve the shared prosperity vision by 2030. All right, so as for the problem statement, a growing body of research stresses the importance of religion in understanding and addressing climate change and sustainability, because all of us in this world, we are basically belong to the religions. All right, so we have Hindu, Buddha, Christians, and also Islam as the major religions in the world. So I chose Islam as the Malaysians is considered as Muslim-dominated country in terms of the population. About 60% of Malaysian are Muslims or consist of Muslims. There is a fundamental need to understand the role of religion to fully grasp the cultural dynamics of climate change. However, little is known about the relationship between Muslim communities and the climate change according to Cohesion 2021. So this study has formulated 2 research questions. Number 1, what is the relationship between Islamic values and sustainable consumption behavior? And number 2, what types of respondents grouped by the previous research? All right. So as for the methodology, this study reports the steps followed by the preferred reporting items for system reviews for meta-analysis, PRISMA guidelines to minimize the risk of bias. So there are 4 processes, including screening, all right, until the article has been finalized for further analysis. All right, so the search strings for this research study, the researchers use 2 databases or 2 commonly used database, or such as Web of Science and also Scopus. So these are the keywords used in the searching or data searching from the 2 database, Web of Science and also Scopus. All right, so these are the selection process adopted from Mohe, Liberty, Teslaf, and Altman 2009. So it starts with the identification. So based on the searching, the researchers found the data or article related to sustainable consumption behavior and Muslim or Islamic values from Scopus 44, and from Web of Science is 55. And then after the first stage has been done, we proceed with the screening process. So based on the screening, 33 records duplicate removed from the further analysis. All right, and then 66 article will be proceed for the next screen. All right. And also for the eligibility criteria, only research articles that full text article that published in English, and also that published between 2015 and 2022 has been included for further analysis. All right. So after the eligibility process has been done, full text article assessed for eligibility 24. However, 16 articles will has been excluded with reason due to the reason that no Islamic value discussed in that article, which is 15, and then no found full text, which is 1. So therefore, the only 8 articles proceed for the next next explanation or next further analysis. All right. As for the findings and analysis, the study on sustainable consumption and its nexus to Islamic values have received special attention internationally and locally. So based on the systematic literature review or SLR, there is a significant relationship between Islamic values and also sustainable consumption behavior, and also there is a relationship between religiosity and also sustainable consumption behavior. However, most of the previous study used general consumers respondents to answer the research questions, and only one research indicated that respondents were selected from clothing industries. There are also research studies that employ university students and respondents. Only one research investigates generational cohorts differences, means that they do the differences among the generation on how they react on the or respond to the sustainable consumption behavior. And also it has been reported that there is no study investigate the differences between men and women in responding and practicing sustainable consumption behavior, because according to the previous research, women is more sustainable when it comes to the consumption behavior as compared to men, because women will do more on the grocery shopping, so they were buying more on the household, all right, and they are believed to be more sustainable as compared to men. And then according to Sharif, to 2016, he proposed that a study of Islamic ethical consumption values and their practice in an affluent market should be conducted looking at the impact of age and gender, all right. There is also a need to explore the generational cohort differences, as most previous studies have separated them in the past research. All right. So as for conclusion and direction for future research, this systematic review has highlighted the importance of religiosity, especially Islamic values and its nexus or relationship with on the sustainable consumption behavior in our effort to combat the climate change. Because if you are aware, all right, nowadays we are facing climate change, global warming, extreme weather, all right. It basically is the consequences of our consumption. So if we would like to combat this climate change or stop the global warming, all right, so we must consume sustainably, all right. We must practice sustainably, and we must change also our lifestyle as well. So this study responds to the literature and empirical gap. So for the future research, this based on the systematic literature review, it suggested that future research needs also to consider exploring the effect of generational cohorts differences in sustainable consumption behavior, to see the differences how Generation X, Generation Y, and also millennial response to the sustainable consumption behavior. So with that, I would like to end my presentation. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Asmi. I think it is a very, very relevant and interesting study in terms of connecting or finding the relationship between Islamic values and sustainable consumption behavior. However, I did not hear, or I missed it out maybe, the list of Islamic values that you would be able to connect with that could contribute to sustainable consumption. Mm-hmm. Could you tell us which Islamic values actually contribute positively to sustainable consumption?
All right. Okay, sure. Thank you, Prof. Ranjit, for your question. So basically, there are 4 principles in Islam, all right, that basically this SRI is derived from my PhD, all right, I'm doing my PhD right now. So there are 4 principles in Islam that basically promoting the sustainable consumption, which is Tawhid, altruism, biosphere or biosphere values, and also wasatiyah, which is the moderation, all right. So if we do believe in God, for example, Tawhid means that you believe in God as one. So if you do believe that God is observe you, whatever you're doing in this world, therefore you will be consumed sustainably. You will not do the corruption on earth, all right. And also for the biosphere, it means that you put the environment first thing in mind. You prioritize the environment when you do the consumption. Therefore, you will buy something that only sustainable or green or maybe natural that will not harm the environment. And then altruism is that you also put the other non-human beings or other human beings as well as part of the consideration when you want to consume, all right. And lastly, about the moderation means that we must do the moderation in our spending. We cannot be very excessive or in other words, like wasting the natural resources as well, or wasting money to buy things as well. That is the principle in Islam that is also aligned with other religions such as also Christianity as well.
Obviously, I agree with you that this is not only Islam. There are many religions who offer some more sustainable ideas and sustainable practices. But I have a question arising from what you said. If, as you say, Islamic values do contribute to sustainable consumption, then it goes without saying that the Islamic countries must be the most sustainable societies. Would you say that?
No, I don't say that, but it means that if we really practice, it doesn't matter Islam, Hindu or Buddha or Christian, but if we do implement of based on our values, based on our religion, we can save the environment, we can save the world.
Sure. So there is a fundamental issue in the practice of Islamic values.
Yes.
Because I know I lived in the Middle East, and I think they are not necessarily the most sustainable consumption practices. There is a rampant waste, exorbitant, luxurious consumption behavior, which is a bit of a contradiction to what we are saying. So in a way, we are saying we need to emphasize on the practice of Islamic values more vehemently and more rigorously.
We have to go to the basic,
Exactly. Yes, I think there's a very valid point there. Thank you very much for drawing attention to this fact. And I fully agree with you. Islamic religion does propagate very important values without any questions, and sustainable consumption obviously is one of those. And the practice of it is a slightly different question. So I don't know if there is anyone in the audience who wants to add to this discussion on the relationship between Islamic values and sustainable consumption practices, which is essential for saving the earth and for sustainable living in the future. Anyone has a question? No, as usual, everyone is hungry, waiting to go to the ballrooms, I think. Okay, in this case, I think I will close this session and thank all the presenters who have brought to us a whole heap of issues and aspects that we should draw attention to, from Ms. Risa to Sadatul and Muhammad and Khairul to Muhammad and Chong and Asmir, talking about mothers of disabled children, about environmental issues, about using university land to generate income, and so on and so forth. We had a wide variety of topics explored this afternoon, and they are all very interesting topics. And I must admit that the research shows a very complex and comprehensive understanding of the issues and how to deal with them. And I believe with this conference, having laid the foundation for the students to make those presentations, we are enriching the world with the knowledge that have been generated through this research. So thank you everyone for participation in this session. And I will conclude. I believe I am generally on time, and we have done a wonderful job of this session this afternoon. Thank you very much.
Okay, right, Ranjit. You are on time, but somehow the program slipped. We actually have exceeded about 45 minutes actually.
Oh.
Probably our timing might be a bit more lenient in the next conference because it's a bit too tight.
Sure, I do.
Yeah. But anyway, we are not in a rush in that way because she separated the virtual from the face-to-face. So you know, but anyway, we are still trying out and testing out, and let's see how it goes. And just for the record, for this conference, we've got about 25% of the papers with virtual presenters, right? So future conferences, we are going back to normal in the sense that the breakout chairs will be face-to-face breakout chairs, actually, meaning who will be attending will be picked up for the
presenters
as a breakout chair. But at the same time, we like to have neutral breakout chairs rather than participants being one of the breakout chairs, because there could be conflict of interest and so on. But anyway, hope you can join us in Samarkand in mid-December. That's where we'll be going.
In Uzbekistan, as you said.
Yeah, Uzbekistan. Yeah. More information. Yeah.
Let's see.
See you around. You know.
Yeah, sure. It's possible. It's always possible. I'll be around.
Okay. I'm thankful also to the crowd because we still got a good crowd. Yeah, you know, even we have actually extended the time. So anyway, thanks again. By the way, Ranjit, what's the weather like in Australia?
It's cold, but not that much. It used to be more cold in the winter. Now this is the end of the winter, beginning to be the...
you've already gone through your winter, eh? Okay.
Yes.
Right. Yeah, yes. Australia is slightly different, yeah, from Europe. Yeah.
It's different. It's summer in the Middle East where I came from, and it's the winter here. Yeah, it's a bit cold, but it's bearable.
Right. Okay, Ranjit, we'll keep in touch.
Sure.
Yeah. Okay.
It was a great pleasure to be with you. Thank you.
Right. Thank you, Ranjit. To the audience, thank you very much for your participation. To those who could not present face-to-face, I hope you make an attempt for the next conference, because conference is not just presenting papers. It's more than just presenting papers and get your papers published. Okay. And just a reminder to those who are already checked into the Magellan. Yeah, welcome to Magellan, and hope you can still rush for your registration, which closes at 6:30 today. Yeah, it's at ballroom 1, level 1, and for tomorrow we will start sharp at 9 a.m. There is no registration in the morning. To those who missed the registration, please collect your conference pack just before the keynote speech, which is in the evening, just before dinner, right? And by the way, to those who have registered for the conference, the dinner is actually included, right? So please be with us right through until tomorrow night. Yeah. Any last questions?
Okay. By the way, Prof.
Right.
Can I ask one question?
Yes,
it
please.
Seems that I present online, but I have my friends who collect my conference pack at the venue.
Yes, we've got your. You have passed it on to someone else, isn't it?
Yes. Can she represent me to go to the dinner on behalf?
Say it again.
Okay. Can she replace me for the dinner?
Who is she?
My friends who collect also the participants at the conference.
She will be attending. She's a registered participant, isn't it?
Her husband is registered participant.
I see what you mean.
But she did not register, but she collect the goodies for
okay. According to our conference policy, we only
allow the participants.
Yes.
All right. Okay. Sure. No problem.
And to those who have who would not be attending have actually informed us earlier, so we have actually calculated those, yeah, for the seats. Yeah.
All right, sure, no problem, Prof.
Right. Okay. Any other last questions?
Morocco, maybe. Next year.
Not Morocco. Morocco is in March. We'll be
in
going
March,
to Samarkand in December.
All right, okay.
Right. Okay, see you there, Cik Azmi.
All right.
Right. Any last questions before we sign off? 1, 2, 3. Right. Okay. Thanks a lot. Thanks again for being a very active participant. See you around tomorrow. Yeah, we continue. Oh, by the way, for the virtual presenters, hope you can also join in tomorrow. Right. You'll get the link in your email by 8 tomorrow morning. Right. So, Assalamualaikum. Thank you very much.
Waalaikumsalam, Prof. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.